So we are coming up on just about 2 years since my husband and I began this project. Here we are measuring what would eventually be the bones of our guest house slash casita slash pool house. So we actually used Tuff Shed to build the bones of the structure. So essentially, it's just the shell of the house. So Tuff Shed was awesome to work with. A little pricey, but we ultimately were able to customize it. So you can customize any of the sheds. We asked for windows to be put in, some French doors, and you can customize pretty much anything. And so that's kind of what we did here, keeping in mind that we were going to use this as a guest house. And so this is probably one of the only parts where we didn't do ourselves. We had professionals do it. They take care of permits, everything. So this is what the finished shall look like. And so the very next step, once we had the shed put in, was getting rain gutters in, because we wanted to make sure we protected the foundation when it rained. And so I'm just showing here just an idea of the items that my husband used. I didn't help him. I don't know how to do it, but I think that he just used Google like he always does a lot of research for a few weeks, and then figures it out himself. And so, because the roof is slanted, so it slants back towards the fence, we wanted to make sure that we had the gutters on that side, so it didn't really mess with the fence to our neighbors, or like I said, the foundation. So here my husband's essentially putting the rain gutters together, and using this glue to put all of the parts together.
Oh, there you go.
So once he assembled all that, he went ahead and put these clasps on that are eventually going to go onto the roof. Again, this isn't a tutorial steps by step. It's literally just me documenting what we did and all the hard work that we put in. Honestly, I had completely forgotten about the step and having done all this until I saw the footage, which I had been keeping for now 2 years, because I just really couldn't get into editing it because I knew I had a ton of footage. And so here's the rain gutter completely done. It worked out pretty good. Still working, going strong. So the next step was, after the electricity was put in, I went through the entire shell, and my job was to put on these metal plates onto the wood slabs, whatever you call those things. In the future, if we wanted to drill any holes into the wall, the metal's there to stop anything from going through and hitting one of the cables. And of course, my husband loves to give me the dirty jobs, so he made installation my job. And here I'm just showing what we used for the casita. Here I had already finished a big chunk of the shell. And this insulation doesn't have fiberglass, so I didn't have to worry about that, but I still had to use a special mask, because you don't want to breathe in any of those small fibers. You can kind of see me there with the mask. Thankfully, we had one of those, but it was still so itchy. This stuff, you can cut it super easy. It's like cutting butter, but all the little dust particles that this thing sends off into the air, it's so itchy. Every day that I worked on this, I could not wait to get to the shower. I would take off my clothes outside because I didn't want them inside. It was a mess, but it's honestly really easy to do this. If you need to cut to match any of, like, you could see here the electrical outlets and things like that, I had to make sure I cut around those to make it fit snug, but also not have it stick out, because once we put on the drywall, you don't want the insulation just come out and make it tough for you to drill the drywall onto the wood beams. So like I said, it's super easy. This honestly wasn't complicated. It's just a lot of work, especially the ceiling, because I'm working from the bottom up and those things tend to come down, but actually they fit really snug. Not everything's perfect, and so I did have to kind of mess around with some of the cuts, and the ceiling was a little bit tough because if it wasn't perfect or if it was too snug, I had to keep trying, and meanwhile I was holding it with one hand, and so that did get tiring. So right after the installation got done, I believe the next weekend, it was time to drywall. So part 2, I'll be showing how we did and conquered the drywall. So if you are interested in just seeing how this all came together, then please watch part 2.